A few months ago, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., our new Secretary of Human Health Services, announced that HHS and thus the FDA was going to accelerate approval of psychedelic medicine. In particular, he mentioned psilocybin, the active alkaloid in psilocybin mushrooms. And a lot of people have been focused on then, okay, great. The FDA approves psilocybin as a psychedelic medicine. It can become legally available through clinics. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the context or the experience of psilocybin being a 6-hour experience actually doesn't fit all that well into the standard clinical model. And so in today's video, I'm going to talk a little bit about why psilocybin's FDA approval, although exciting from a clinical and medical perspective for mental health, in particular major depressive disorder and treatment-resistant depression, is actually much more exciting for how it potentially reboots U.S. drug policy. Because when RFK Jr. promised FDA-approved psychedelics within 12 months, everyone started calculating the uptick in Compass Pathways stock prices. But they're missing the real revolution. Because while everyone is focused on pharmaceutical profits, the most significant change isn't about medicine, it's about who gets to decide consciousness policy in America. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, when these substances are Schedule 1, meaning they have no medical value and are highly addictive, ridiculous, it means that the federal government can override all states. But when we reschedule it, when the FDA actually approves this as a medicine, that means the DEA has to reschedule it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 or 3. And so rescheduling means state autonomy. Right? So the media focuses on stock prices. It focuses on, oh, this could be the next big clinical treatment, but it misses the constitutional dimension of this, how this changes drug policy. Because the fundamental fact is, when you think about your last doctor's appointment, how long did it last? 10 minutes, 15 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at the most. Now imagine fitting a 6-hour consciousness journey into that system. This mismatch reveals why Spravato succeeded where others failed. Spravato is the esketamine nasal spray that's been patented by J&J. It's on track to do over $2 billion in revenue in 2025. And the reason for that is because it fits really well into a psychiatric visit window. Right? Psychiatric visits are normally only 15 to 20 minutes for medication management. Insurance models need discrete, billable interventions. Liability insurance for 6-hour sessions would be astronomical because our healthcare system is optimized for throughput, not transformation, right? Modern healthcare was not designed to expand our consciousness. It was built for symptom suppression. And again, this is why Spravato won. It fits within an existing clinical model, predictable outcomes and familiar framework, disease model language that insurance companies understand. Success requires conforming to constraints, not expanding them. Right? J&J reverse engineered Spravato from these healthcare constraints. The nasal spray eliminates medical complexity, and treatment-resistant depression speaks the language of insurance companies. But we cannot let healthcare logistics determine which consciousness tools that we make available. Selection pressure favors medicines that fit infrastructure, not optimal effectiveness. And this is the contradiction. The default mode network doesn't dissolve and rebuild in 90 minutes. Traditional protocols that involve psychedelic medicine involve weeks of preparation and integration, which actually reveals the real victory hidden in potential FDA approval of psilocybin. The most powerful neuroplastic interventions require the most integration time. But again, our medical system, our sick care system, optimizes for efficiency, not transformation. It's why indigenous cultures really gave and honored the time that was necessary to work with these powerful plant medicines. Ceremonies would often last days, not just hours. And now we're forcing these transformative allies into models of convenience. It's not going to work, folks. which is why so many of these biotech and drug development companies are developing shorter lasting experiences. Now, that'll be another video, why shorter lasting experiences are not necessarily optimal for transformation. But for now, let's focus again on psilocybin rebooting US drug policy, because the real victory is handing control back to the states. The DEA has no discretion when FDA approval legally forces rescheduling. If the FDA approves psilocybin as a psychedelic medicine, the DEA will be forced to reschedule. This isn't a maybe, it's a clear mechanism of action. It must occur. And most people don't understand what this federal to state shift means in practice. As an example, Colorado and Oregon, where psilocybin mushrooms are now legally available, they actually operate in legal limbo. Programs exist despite federal law. It's more or less a, we're going to kind of look the other way type of experience. Schedule 1 was always a federalism anomaly, complete state law preemption, which is not what the United States of America was based on. So when we were actually able to reschedule these medicines from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 or 3, it actually restores constitutional balance between federal and state authority. Schedule 1 research also requires weapons-grade plutonium security, literal safes, alarms, inventory tracking. Universities refuse to touch anything related to Schedule 1 drugs because compliant costs often exceed grant budgets. And so when we take something like psilocybin off Schedule 1, or 5-MeO-DMT, which is now in phase 3 clinical trials through ADAI and Beckley Psytech, off Schedule 1, or MDMA, which is still being brought through clinical trials by, MAPS, and then it was Lykos, and now it's Resilience Therapeutics, also taken off Schedule 1. And when that changes, the research explosion will make the Cambrian explosion look tiny. Because post-rescheduling, there will be standard protocols. It'll be like alcohol research. Any lab can order ethanol immediately. 90%, there will be over a 90% reduction in cost, which enables a research renaissance on psychedelics. Right now, there is so much bureaucratic red tape that the amount of research that we will be able to do and the amount that we will be able to understand about these substances and compounds once they are rescheduled is insane. And that's why state-controlled changes everything. Let's give another example. Banking, right? Right now, banking won't touch psilocybin businesses due to money laundering concerns. Professional licenses get revoked for federal crimes even when state law permits it. Now, many of you maybe have heard of the 280E clause, which is that when cannabis and psychedelic companies are running their business, they can't expense things through the IRS like a normal business would because of this Schedule 1 substance. And so this creates a false choice that with rescheduling, we're about to transcend. Okay? Federal employees, military contractors are excluded from these state programs. And believe me, some of these people need this medicine the most. Insurance won't cover federally illegal activities, and legal uncertainty constrains even legal state participation. Now, we're also looking at going beyond the medical model, right? The medical model requires diagnosis of something wrong. But what about healthy optimization? We don't need medical diagnoses for gyms or personal trainers. Pathology focuses the research to sick populations. So all of a sudden, when we reschedule these substances from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2 or 3, we can get out of this pathological focus. We can get out of this incredibly bureaucratic and cumbersome medical model and actually start to explore how psychedelics can help us to become more sovereign as individuals, informed adults with agency, making new choices and decisions with enhanced neuroplasticity. And so that means that 90% reduction in cost for research enables protocols that help with human flourishing, with creativity, with enhanced relationships, not just treatment. And that's what we need if we want to build a new system based on regeneration. You maybe have heard me talk about this quote before with Buckminster Fuller. You do not fix an old system, right? It's obsolete. right? It's broken. Don't fix it. Make a new system that replaces the old system. We need these substances to be rescheduled by the DEA if we want to unlock their incredible research capability for human flourishing, for creativity, for building this new system that's based on regeneration. And so the promise of timelines without addressing infrastructure, right? Available within 12 months, psilocybin. Again, how in the world are you going to make a 6-hour treatment available within the current clinical model that is focused on 1 to 2 hours? The uptake on that is going to be minimal. Insurance companies are probably not going to cover it. The very fact of the matter is accessibility is not necessarily going to be enhanced directly through that FDA clinical model. That's why we need the rescheduling to open up the research, to think of new systems and new environments that support real transformation, not just pathological treatment. Meditation retreats, wilderness therapy, psychedelic experiences do not fit within these medical models. There is an innovation opportunity when we start to develop new support systems. And that's why the real significance here is a revolution in our drug policy. Some states will focus on medical access, others personal development, some may focus on research. Natural experiments will start to unfold in policy effectiveness across different contexts because the bureaucratic, cumbersome, red tape nature of the Schedule 1 will no longer be there. And this creates the research revolution that we've been waiting for. States attract talent and investment through effective frameworks. There will be migration patterns similar to cannabis, and we need that rescheduling. We could see 47 different states experiment with different frameworks, right? We've already seen Oregon, we've already seen Colorado, and now New Mexico has also legalized the medical use of psilocybin. We still have 47 more states who can start to experiment with frameworks that are ideal for their context, for their geography, for their skill sets. And this will unleash an unprecedented consciousness policy experimentation in American history. And it's what makes me so optimistic at a point in time where everything feels like we're being black-pilled. It's dreary, we're negative, we're pessimistic. The very fact is we are on the cusp of unleashing our consciousness through the accessibility of psychedelic medicine. Small labs, independent research, more and more startups will start to enter this space, academic collaboration without barriers, investment flows when legal risks decrease. We've seen already about $4 billion invested in the psychedelic landscape. I would expect that to triple, if not quadruple, if not 10x, once these Schedule 1 substances are actually rescheduled. And this allows a choice architecture moment. States with research infrastructure have advantage. Early mover benefits for effective frameworks. Community integration support becomes crucial, which represents something much bigger than psychedelics. Right? State level innovation, design frameworks that balance safety with autonomy, and supportive structures as policy diverges. What becomes possible when states can innovate on consciousness policy? And this is the federalism revolution, from federal override to constitutional federalism. And this is an important question. What would your state create if it could design its own psilocybin or psychedelic framework? States as laboratories of democracy for policy innovation, precedents that could be set for other consciousness technologies. And the very fact of the matter is, your participation shapes these policies. We are bringing the sovereignty back to the individual and out of the hands of the oligarchy with the approval and the enhanced accessibility around psychedelic medicine. The future is not decided by Washington, D.C. It's decided by communities understanding the difference between federal control and local sovereignty. And this has implications beyond just psychedelics. Other consciousness substances. Different states emphasize research, therapy, development, or spirituality. Most people haven't even considered what they want local frameworks to look like. And so the question for you, as we finish and close this video today, is how consciously will you participate in shaping these emerging possibilities? Thank you for your time. You can find me on Instagram or X at PaulAustin3W. Drop a comment below on what you've thought. What are you most excited about as it relates to the rescheduling of psychedelic substances? What gets you most excited and optimistic about the future of these medicines? Thanks for tuning in.